The hashtag #MeToo movement is a tricky subject to deal with, especially in the horror genre. But these two nuanced and strange horror films manage to tackle the subject matter in creative and horrifying ways. I got to see The Scary of 61st at the Music Box in Chicago with director and star Dasha Nekrasova in attendance. She seems to have a particularly good eye, which reminded me of Polanski quite a bit. This is M.L. Miller Frights Best in Horror Countdown 2021 through 2022. Counting down the best in horror films released from October 1st, 2021 through September 30th, 2022. According to me, M.L. Miller. Here we go. Number 19. The Scary of 61st was released on December 17th, 2021. It is now streaming on Shudder. The director is Dasha Nekrasova, and it was written by Dasha Nekrasova and Madeline Quinn. When Addie, played by Betsy Brown, and Noelle, played by Madeline Quinn, pick out a new apartment in New York City, they have no idea it used to be a den of torture and abuse owned by none other than Jeffrey Epstein. After settling in, a mysterious nameless woman, played by director and co-writer Dasha Nekrasova, shows up on their doorstep with wild tales of conspiracy. Addie is freaked out and leaves to stay with her boyfriend, while Noelle is intrigued by the woman's wild theories. Addie begins having nightmares, hallucinations, and seemingly becomes possessed by the soul of a 12-year-old girl abused by Epstein. Meanwhile, Noelle and Nekrasova's unnamed character begin a descent into drugs, conspiracy, and all things Epstein. What I love most about The Scary of 61st is that it's unlike any other movie out there. Yes, it incorporates elements of Possession, Rosemary's Baby, and Eyes Wide Shut. Still, even though there are strong themes similar to those films, The Scary of 61st manages to be something truly unique. For one thing, it incorporates a modern slant on drug use, online rabbit hole conspiracies, and sexual exploration. This comes out the most during Quinn and Nekrasova's scenes where they submerge themselves in Epstein lore, fueled by copious drug use and the strong immediate connection the two share. It's fascinating to watch the relationship between these two young investigators grow. What is even more interesting is that the info they uncover most likely isn't as world-shaking as they believe, as everything is amplified to the nth degree by their youthful exuberance about the subject matter and, of course, the tons of drugs they're taking. The paranoia and suspicion intensified because of who these people are and what they're doing to themselves. That doesn't mean there's no grounds for conspiracy. I must admit, I've gone down those rabbit holes myself in terms of government conspiracies, Illuminati, New World Order, secret societies, human sacrifice, and of course, the Epstein case. Nekrasova's character even dares question the unquestionable in these black and white times and brings up Pizzagate and the Clintons, which is definitely something you wouldn't see in a Hollywood movie. But that's why I love The Scary of 61st. It's a bold and brash statement from a filmmaker who isn't afraid to push uncomfortable topics, delve into unpopular theories, and really shove themes many are afraid to talk about right in the viewers' faces. But there's a supernatural element as well to The Scary of 61st, and it truly is quite terrifying. Betsy Brown's performance as Addie is the rawest performance you're going to see this side of Isabelle Adjani's fierce and taboo-shattering performance in Possession. Because her room is the one where much of the horrors of the apartment took place, she's affected the most. Her transformation from excited roommate to tortured soul is a vast metamorphosis, and the things she does will make even the strongest constitutions wince. Brown is absolutely fearless, pushing her body to physical limits to show how damaged she is by this encounter with the unknown. Brown's performance alone is enough to seal a recommendation for me, even if the rest of the movie was shit. But it's not, as Nekrasova dances between the supernatural aspects with Addie and the conspiracy investigation by Noelle and the mysterious woman, Nekrasova. The film is split in two, flipping between these two aspects with one side dedicated to uncovering the truth, the other side showing the horror of what Epstein wrought. These elements come together at the end in a truly shocking climax that will break your heart and kick your soul. All three actresses are going to be huge stars one day. I've already mentioned Brown's performance as Addie, but even though Madeline Quinn's performance as Noelle is quieter and more nuanced, it still is extremely well realized. Take away the theories and possessions, and this is a story of a pair of roommates and best friends, Addie and Noelle, who are growing apart from one another. It's a sad breakup, especially since these two aren't on the same page from the very first day they move in together. The possession and conspiracy are just louder and more cinematic metaphors of the growing wedge between these two people. Quinn's Noelle is much more cognizant of this rift, but is hesitant to talk with Addie about it in fear of hurting her. These feelings aren't as grandiose as Addie's possession, but they are equally powerful. For me, though, the truly impressive standout is Dasha Nekrasova herself. Not only is she stunning in fishnet stockings, and the way she rolls her eyes makes my world swirl, but there's a brash fearlessness about the way she approaches this subject matter that is absolutely unique. I honestly feel she's going to be a force of nature in film if she keeps up with what she started in The Scary of 61st, and I can only hope she stays within the horror realm to grace us with more. The Scary of 61st most likely will not impress everyone. For some, I believe it might be a little too representative of the generation that many have little patience with. The way Noelle and Nekrasova dive off the cliff into the land of Epstein is going to leave a lot of people who have distanced themselves from youthful recklessness unimpressed. This is a film that feels young, it's brash, it makes quick decisions and snap judgments. Whether Nekrasova knows it or not, she's captured the good and the bad of her generation here, and some people are going to find that excruciating to endure. I didn't, but I guarantee some will. I also go back and forth with the fact that the real Epstein case was used instead of some kind of made-up character that represents him. Anytime real-world facts are tossed into a fantasy world, it immediately dates the film. Still, there is so much mystique surrounding the Epstein case and all the high society involved that it feels like an important film because it uses fiction to ask real-life questions. Again, though, if you're looking for a time capsule film that captures a specific moment in history, The Scary of 61st does it perfectly. The Scary of 61st made me feel uncomfortable. That's what horror is supposed to do. It made me wince and reel back. It made me gasp at the things it was saying and smile at the guts it took to say it. Nekrasova delivers a stylistic yet socially relevant story, shedding light on real-life horrors through the lens of possession/conspiracy. It's not easy horror, but it's important horror, and I highly recommend free thinkers to allow it to burrow into your brain pan and make you question everything. There's not enough cinema out there encouraging that, and when a dangerously good film like The Scary of 61st comes along, you gotta celebrate it. There have been an abundance of witchy horror films about the persecution of women and witches throughout the years, but of all of them, She Will stood out as the best with great performances and a timely message. She Will was released on July 15th, 2022. It's streaming on Shudder from IFC Midnight. It's directed by Charlotte Colbert and written by Kitty Percy and Charlotte Colbert. Aging Hollywood star Veronica, played by Alice Kriege, has recently had a double mastectomy and goes on a healing retreat in Scotland to recover. When she arrives, the secluded locale is supposed to be empty, but she discovers that she will be spending her time with a group of people on an artist's retreat. Though at first, Veronica is furious and instructs her nurse Desi, played by Coda Eberhardt, to find other accommodations immediately, the ancient forest around her begins opening Veronica up mentally and spiritually. Tapping into ancient evils surrounding the numerous witch hunts that occurred on the land long ago, a fire has awakened in Veronica that helps her deal with long-buried trauma. She Will is a moody and atmospheric psychological horror film delving into many issues that one might call sensitive. The loss of her womanhood weighs heavily on Veronica, who feels like an invalid and a freak after her surgery. Kriege is given one of her most complex recent roles as Veronica, who comes off as a shrill, high-maintenance brat at first, but upon seeing what she has endured, one understands her harshness to the world around her. Through many slow moments where Kriege looks at her aging face in front of the mirror and covering up her bandaged torso, she reveals her vulnerability with very few words. But this scene is played out in many a Lifetime movie about breast cancer, so while it's done well, it isn't anything most haven't seen before. While soaking in the dreary and muddy atmosphere, it is revealed that the real cancer that has been eating away at Veronica is the abuse she suffered at a young age in her first role as an actress. While very little specifics are revealed, something horrible happened when Veronica was underage, acting in her first film with her co-star, Hathborn, played by Malcolm McDowell. Reminiscent of the Weinstein case, as well as the Polanski scandal, this is the true horror that arises in She Will. The way this abuse is addressed will make you uncomfortable and truly sympathetic to Veronica's character and make you root her on as things start to get supernatural. In many ways, this is the longest time-spanning revenge film ever made, as an elderly woman finally gets the nerve to fight back against someone who wronged her very long ago. It's a powerful story and exquisitely performed by Kriege. Malcolm McDowell plays the role as a pompous shell of a Hollywood leading man that he once was. While his appearance is limited, he's definitely given the meatiest role he's had in ages. Rupert Everett also has a small role in here as the art teacher. I haven't seen him in a film since the 90s, and he's almost unrecognizable here. Texas Chainsaw Massacre's Olwen Fiore is horribly underused in this one, with most of her scenes most likely on the editing room floor. Other than acting as a discourse machine in the second act, there really is no reason for an actress of her caliber to be there. Coda Eberhardt fares much better, and if this film has a breakout star, it's her. Despite Veronica taking her frustrations out on her, Desi manages to keep a positive and supportive attitude. She even gets a little backstory to show why she is the way she is. The actress has a vibrant it factor you often hear about. In many ways, her story is used as a modern reflection of the abuse Veronica suffered as a child. There are some supernatural elements to She Will, but for the most part, I'd categorize the film as a dramatic horror with a heavy emphasis on drama. Yes, witches are burned, spells are casted, and there are some really nicely integrated special effects of sludge and illusion. But it's not over the top, and not really the thing the filmmakers want to focus on. Yes, this is a film with a message, but it's a wonderfully acted and directed one that delves into things that are usually only addressed in whispered, private moments. The subtle horrors are effective, but if you're looking for over-the-top cackling witches on broomsticks, look elsewhere. Maybe over to Kriege's other recent memorable performance as the witch in Gretel and Hansel. As always, feel free to agree, disagree, or give me your own picks for your favorite horror movies. It's October, so let's talk horror. Come back tomorrow for the next level in the Best in Horror Countdown 2021 through 2022. Be sure to hit all of the pertinent bells and whistles down below, and you'll never miss a post. Happy Halloween, folks.